Hey, good evening. This is BishopRick, and I hope you enjoyed your weekend. Mine was full of rest, relaxation, a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of mystery. I got fooled again by someone online wanting to meet me somewhere for a drink or two and decided not to show up, so I'm like, okay, I'll enjoy myself. So I did. I've been watching a lot of VODs of different VTubers. Haven't watched a lot of streams here lately because it's hard to catch them streaming, but I'll easily watch their VODs, catch up with what's going on. And the one I've been surprised by here lately is Camila, and she's a lot funnier than I thought she was. I've just seen her collabing with, she'll collab with Beetle or Annie or some of the Vishojo girls or Numi and Bao and them. But I haven't ever seen her stream live or streams. And she's pretty funny. She has a quirky way of doing things and talking about things and just get that VTuber weird sense of humor that we all love. So check her out. I think she's at Camila. I will post if you're watching the VOD on YouTube, I'll post that in the comment section. A link to her Twitch, I believe she uses. But other than that, I've been kind of enjoying life. It was a hectic Father's Day a little bit yesterday, but everything is seems to be a-okay right now. Not doing anything exciting, or don't have any plans to do anything exciting in the future, but we will keep trying and we'll keep doing. And if there's something you want me to do, read, or comment on, have a question, just put it down in the comment section, and we'll get to it. Excuse me. I wanted to start on something new. It was from the book Expedition to Earth by Arthur C Clarke, and he's the one that wrote the book for 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think they made the movie first, or he was heavily involved in the script process, and he just decided to make the make the book based on the script, and then he wrote the second one, The Day We Make Contact. I think 2010. I think he wrote it before the movie. So, but he's a very good sci-fi author. Down to earth kind of guy. I'm sorry, something had caught my eye in the book. But, this book was published, let's see, looks like 1953, so this is some of his early work, and before he became famous with the 2001 stuff. The first story is called Second Dawn, and it looks like there's a lot of it, but we'll see what happens. Once again, if I'm doing something you like or doing something you don't like, let me know. And we'll try to do what we can do. Hold on. Alright. From the book Expedition to Earth by Arthur C Clarke. The first story is called Second Dawn. Here they come, said Eris, rising to his 4 feet and turning to look down the long valley. For a moment the pain and bitterness had left his thoughts, even so that even Gerald, whose mind was more closely tuned to his than to any other, could scarcely detect it. There was even an undertone of softness that recalled poignancy, the Eris she had known in the days before the war. The old Eris who now seemed almost as remote and lost as if he were lying with all the others out there on the plain. A dark tide was flowing up the valley, advancing with a curious, hesitant motion, making odd pauses and little bounds forward. It was flanked by gold, the thin line of the Athelini guards, so terrifyingly few compared with the black mass of the prisoners, but they were enough. Indeed, they were only needed to guide that aimless river on its faltering way. Yet at the sight of so many thousands of the enemy, Gerald found herself trembling and instinctively moving toward her mate. Silver pelt wrestling with gold, Eris gave no sign that he understood or even noticed the action. The fear vanished as Gerald saw how slowly the dark flood was moving forward. She had been told what to expect, but the reality was even worse than she had imagined. As the prisoners came nearer, all the hate and bitterness ebbed from her mind, to be replaced by a sick compassion. No one of her race ever needed more fear of the aimless idiot horde. No more of her race need ever fear the aimless idiot horde that was being shepherded through the pass into the valley it would never leave again. The guards were doing little more than urge the prisoners on with meaningless but encouraging cries, like nurses calling to infants too young to sense their thoughts. Strain as she might, Gerald could detect no vestige of reason in any of those thousands of minds passing so near at hand. That brought home to her more vividly than could anything else, the magnitude of the victory and of the defeat. Her mind was sensitive enough to detect the first faint thoughts of children hovering on the verge of consciousness. The defeated enemy had become not even children, but babies with the bodies of adults. The tide was passing within a few feet of them now. For the first time, Gerald realized how much larger than her own people the Mithrians were, and how beautifully the light of the twin suns gleamed on the dark satin of their bodies. Once a magnificent specimen, towering a full head above Iris, broke loose from the main body and came blundering toward them, halting a few paces away. Then it crouched down like a lost and frightened child, the splendid head moving uncertainly from side to side, as if seeking it knew not what. For a moment the great empty eyes fell full upon Gerald's face. She was as beautiful, she knew, to the Mithrians as to her own race, but there was no flicker of emotion on the blank features, and no pause in the aimless movement of the questing head. Then an exasperated guard drove the prisoner back to his fellows. "Come away," Gerald pleaded. "I don't want to see any more. Why did you ever bring me here?" The last thought was heavy with reproach. Eris began to move away over the grassy slopes in great bounds that she could not hope to match. But as he went, his mind threw its message back to hers. His thoughts were still gentle, though the pain beneath them was too deep to be concealed. "I wanted everyone, even you, to see what we had to do to win the war. Then perhaps we will have no more in our lifetimes." He was waiting for her on the brow of the hill, undistressed by the mad violence of the climb. The stream of prisoners was now too far for them to see the details of its painful progress. Gerald crouched down beside Iris and began to browse on the sparse vegetation that had been exiled from the fertile valley. She was slowly beginning to recover from the shock. "But what will happen to them?" she asked presently, still haunted by the memory of that splendid, mindless giant going into a captivity it could never understand. "They can be taught how to eat. There is food in the valley for half a year, and we will move them on. It will be a heavy strain on our resources, but we're under a moral obligation, and we've put it in the peace treaty." "They can never be cured?" "No, their minds have been totally destroyed. They'll be like that until they die." There was a long silence. Gerald let her gaze wander across the hills, falling in general undulations to the edge of the ocean. She could just make out, beyond the gap in the hills, the distant lines of blue that marked the sea. The mysterious, impassable sea, its blue would be deepening into darkness. For the fierce white sun was setting, and presently there would only be the red disk, hundreds of times larger, but giving far less light, of his pale companion. "I suppose we had to do it," Gerald said at last. She was thinking almost to herself, but she let enough of her thoughts escape for Eris to overhear. "Man." "You've seen them," he answered briefly. They were bigger and stronger than we. Though we outnumbered them, it was a stalemate in the end. I think they could have won by doing what we did. We saved thousands from death or mutilation. The bitterness came back into his thoughts, and Gerald dared not to look at him. He had screened the depths of his mind, but she knew that he was thinking of the shattered ivory stump upon his forehead. The war had been fought, except at the very end, with 2 weapons only. The razor-sharp hooves of the little, almost useless forepaws and the unicorn-like horns. With one of these, Eris could never fight again. And from the loss stemmed much of the embittered harshness that sometimes made him hurt even those who loved him. Eris was waiting for someone, though who it was Gerald could not guess. She knew better than to interrupt his thoughts while he was in his present mood, and so remained silently by him, her shadow merging with his as it stretched far along the hilltop. Gerald and Eris came of a race which, in nature's lottery, had been luckier than most, and yet had missed one of the greatest prizes of all. They had powerful bodies and powerful minds, and they lived in a world was both temperate and fertile. By human standards, they would have seemed strange, but by no means repulsive. Their sleek, fur-covered bodies tapered to a single rear limb that could send them leaping over the ground in 30-foot bounds. The 2 forelimbs were much smaller and served merely for support and steadying. They ended in pointy hooves that could be deadly in combat, but had no other useful purpose. Both the Athelini and their cousins, the Mithrians, possessed mental powers that had enabled them to develop a very advanced mathematics and philosophy, but over the physical world they had no control at all. Houses, clothes, tools, indeed artifacts of any kind were utterly unknown to them. To races which possess hands, tentacles, or other means of manipulation, their culture would have seemed incredibly limited, yet such is the adaptability of the mind and the power of the commonplace that they seldom realized their handicaps and could imagine no other way of life. It was natural to wander in great herds over the fertile plains, pausing where food was plentiful and moving on again when it was exhausted. The nomadic life had given them enough pleasure for philosophy and even for certain arts. Their telepathic powers had not robbed them of their voices, and they had developed a complex vocal music and an even more complex choreography. But they took the greatest pride of all in the range of their thoughts. For thousands of generations they had sent their minds roving through the misty infinites of metaphysics, of physics, and indeed all the sciences of matter. They knew nothing, not even that they existed. I'm going to end it here and pick up there next Monday. Once again, if you enjoy my content, let me know. I'm always looking for constructive criticism. I try not to listen to haters, but sometimes you can even learn something from a hater. But anyway, like I said, if you enjoy my content, let me know, and I will get back with y'all, and I'll be tomorrow. I'll be doing more of the prophet, and hopefully finish it before long. It's kind of hard because you're taking small bites of it, and to tell you the truth, my voice is not the best at this point. But like I said, if you want to follow up on anything, I'll put links to some of the VTubers down in the comments, especially Miss Camila, and or down in the description. And thank you for listening, and I'll talk at you later. Bye-bye.